Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name's Katie and I make book related videos every single Wednesday. For a while there, I was doing Monday and Thursday, but with school, I'm sorry, it's just not realistic, so we're going back to the once a week Wednesday schedule. Now you guys know, generally I'm quite anti-disclaimers. I don't like to have to do them, but just, based off the title of this video and the thumbnail, I think you can tell that it's probably warranted in this case. So I did just want to say first, I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with dark erotica or whatever kinks you might have, so this isn't a video where I'm about to shame people for liking a certain thing, so don't worry if just based off the title that's what you think this is. I would also really appreciate it if you guys do wait until the end of the video to go ahead and comment, just in case I address something you're about to comment on later on in the video. And number 3, I'm gonna link 2 really fantastic resources down below from 2 of my favorite booktubers. First is a chapter by chapter analysis of 50 Shades of Grey by My Name is Maninas, and it's fantastic and hilarious, so I highly recommend checking that out. And I'm also gonna link a video on just how we use the word problematic from one of my favorite discussion YouTubers of all time. And I know Francine is probably gonna comment down below and be like, Katie, my whole video was on how to use the word problematic and you're using it wrong in your thumbnail. And to that I would say I agree with you, but I couldn't think of a different title. So now getting into the core of the discussion video, what caused me to want to make this was all of the advertising and 50 Shades Darker coming out in theaters. Now years ago I did read the first 50 Shades book back when it was at the height of its popularity. I remember asking you guys to vote on which next book I should read, and just everyone said 50 Shades because you guys wanted to hear my opinion on it. The video is very embarrassing and I had it on private for a while, but I'll go ahead and make it public for the sake of this video. So if you do want to watch that, I'll put that down below. But I do remember when I read it, I had 3 kind of main thoughts. First, I did not think it was possible to have a narrator who was more irritating than Bella Swan, but Anastasia Steele and her inner goddess proved me wrong. 2, the sex was much less out there than I was anticipating because back when it first came out, no one was really talking about the sex actually in the book. Everyone was kind of being very taboo about it. And I remember vividly filming that video and saying something like, what was he gonna do, fuck her in the eye? I mean, just the way people were describing 50 Shades, I thought it was gonna be so out there, but then it was just like a bunch of butt slapping. And my third thought back when I was reading it is what I'm gonna be talking about mainly in this video, which is the fact that it was a very bad representation of BDSM because, he's stalking her, he's very obsessed with her, and their BDSM relationship kind of lacks trust. And the fact that the author and the story seem to kind of romanticize this kind of abusive relationship. So those are my thoughts back when I was reading it, and I still kind of hold all those thoughts today. But now I'm gonna go ahead and shift from looking at just 50 Shades of Grey to kind of the whole spectrum of dark erotica as a whole. So I think, or at least I should say I hope, that all of us would agree that so long as 2 adults are, consenting, in a good headspace, all of that stuff, just all the factors are in a line, that they can do whatever they want, whatever kinks they want to express, and none of us are here to judge them. If you want to role play that someone's stealing an apple from your orchard and then you attack them, we're all totally cool with that. That's a Scrubs reference. So I started to think about how I feel about 50 Shades of Grey and then the last statement I made, and then I started to get a lot of questions. I started to think about it, especially surrounding these kind of 3 factors or beliefs I have. Number 1, what I said earlier, where I'm totally cool with whatever kinks people might have so long as they're in a good headspace and they're adults, they're consenting, all of that. Number 2, that dark erotica exists that is much more extreme in the 50 Shades of Grey, and anything you want to label 50 Shades of Grey for being problematic for definitely exists to varying and more extreme degrees out there in the erotica realm. And number 3, that I find 50 Shades of Grey problematic. Suddenly in my head, all of those 3 beliefs combined, I kept thinking to myself, am I a hypocrite? So getting back to that kind of second factor, that the array of what's out there in dark erotica is huge, whether it be on, say, websites like Literotica, and you can see some of the categories here. This is where people submit stories online. You can see if you go to like a dark erotica Goodreads list, stuff like this will come up. And I've looked at some of this stuff for research. And more often than not, what's in these short stories or in these books is much more fucked up than what people judge for being in 50 Shades of Grey. If you want to say that 50 Shades of Grey romanticizes abuse, which I do think it does, that exists on Literotica or in these other books. If you want to say that it's a bad representation of BDSM, that's definitely out there. A lot of this even goes far beyond anything that's within 50 Shades of Grey, and it's full on like non-consent, rape, fantasy type stuff. But one argument I hear a lot and that I kind of tend to think about is the fact that when a lot of of people are reading these things, it's escapism, it's their fantasies, it's their kinks, it's not things that they would actually want to happen to them in real life. So keeping all of that in mind, I had a number of questions that I kind of came away with. I do just want to point out, I don't have the answer. I'm curious what you guys think, but I don't necessarily think there's one clear answer. No pun intended, but there is a lot of shades of gray here. You know, if I had my singular opinion about this wouldn't be a discussion video, it would just be a rant. But I kept thinking, what's the difference or problem with 50 Shades of Grey that makes it okay in my mind to have an issue with people celebrating it when I'm fine with people reading and enjoying the rest of the realm of dark erotica? What is it? What's the difference? Is it the fact that a lot of people read 50 Shades of Grey and they really kind of view it and put it on a pedestal and look at it as a good relationship? Is it the fact that the author thinks that it's a good romantic relationship? Is the problem that 50 Shades of Grey has had this level of exposure in the media so that everyone can romanticize it together? So to kind of sum up all those questions into one that I'm super curious to hear your guys' answer to, and if you don't want to answer this question and you just want to comment on something else, that's totally fine. I actually prepared and wrote out the question I'm curious about, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. So to sum it up, my main question is, if 50 Shades of Grey is problematic, how is that different than anything else in the realm of dark erotica if those books or short stories were granted the same level of exposure? Now again, I don't have the answer here, but I just keep thinking about that people say they have issues with 50 Shades of Grey like I have for years. I still have a lot of issues with it, but then I turn around and say that I'm okay with dark erotica. But what if those had that same level of fame that 50 Shades did? So if I personally had to respond to this, and again, I don't think that this is the right answer, I would say that I probably really don't think there is much of a difference, but because 50 Shades of Grey has all of this exposure, it is important to sometimes point out to people who are reading it and enjoying it, just the fact that yes, it's a fantasy and this is erotica, but it shouldn't be representative of a relationship that someone should want in real life. Those were all my thoughts, but I was originally gonna add in this whole like psych pop, because you guys know I'm getting my master's right now. I love psychology, but I was gonna make a huge aspect of this video how people separate what they want internally versus externally, you know, what they fantasize about versus what they'd want to happen in real life. But then I realized this video would be a solid 25 minutes long, so there might be just a totally separate psych pop video in the future. So again, I'm super curious what you guys have to say about this, and I really hope my mom didn't watch this video, but I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion video. These are my favorite types of video to film, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.